Yeah. So maybe, Glenn, what would be great is that now that people have a better sense of kind of how to research it, kind of coming from your background, what type of either educational backgrounds or qualities do you think that these firms are looking for that people can highlight either in the resume, cover letter, or networking conversations?
Mm-hmm. So, at first blush, engineers will probably have a small leg up because they tend to fit in really well with a lot of the technology or, frankly, a lot of the energy type companies. They make stuff, and engineers, a lot of them are engineers themselves. But that said, people with non-traditional backgrounds can definitely make a strong case if you can demonstrate that you're familiar with how the market works, you're familiar with the trends, and that you've put your time in. And again, I think that a lot of that experience will arise from, just showing some initiative. Do a project on your own on the side. Take a class and do a project, or get an internship. And while each of these things sound, there is some barrier to it, it's a fantastic way to demonstrate your level of interest and really to get well versed in it. And it's amazing how 1 to 3 months of a few hours a week will make you a relatively deep expert in a particular topic. And so an example I had was I worked with a waste heat recovery company, and it was a small startup of 20 to 30 engineers in Massachusetts.
Yep.
So working with the waste heat recovery company was, within a few weeks I understood what their technology was. Within a few more weeks I understood the opportunity for it, and it was just really remarkable how quickly all the pieces came together. So inserting yourself and taking the initiative will look really attractive and will do an awful lot to get you up to speed yourself.
Excellent.
All right. So, and that kind of leads into, what are firms looking for? Of course, whether it's a startup or a traditional firm, a lot of these qualities are pretty similar across the board. And so you can look over a few of these bullet points. But again, I think just showing that initiative and demonstrating, since so many of the companies have very specific, pieces in the value chain or value propositions, fully understanding that, you don't actually own the equipment, you lease it back. Or your entire business model depends upon a particular subsidy, which is going to disappear in 3 years, and so we have to figure out a way to be sustainable once that subsidy goes away. It's going to be a deal breaker if you go in and you're not fluent in some of those topics. So how can you position yourself? Just the demonstrated interest, again, with a class or with some sort of project. Calling around. If you call 5 or 6 people in a particular company, they're going to start telling each other, hey, I've heard from Glenn Beam like 3 times, and he must really be interested. This is not sort of just applying for a job at a fast food place where I drop my resume and I hope to hear back from them in a few days. They're getting an awful lot of interest. A lot of the jobs are very competitive. And so again, that just sort of turns into like being fluent in some of the common industry terms, which either the news or the blogs or your projects will help you out with. And so, for instance, with utilities, you got to know what a rate case is and the fact that they don't charge competitive rates, and that's fundamental to their business model. To someone like a late startup, knowing where that solar company plays in the value chain, that there are other people involved, and what exactly do you guys do? I think that's the question you have to really put your thumb on. And then finally with startups, understanding their big driver is we just have to last long enough until we can get funding in our next round. How much funding do we have? So just be cognizant of the type of companies that you're getting involved with.